Hi, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm going to talk about how I use GitHub to manage the firmware for the various printers I have. And basically I just use one repo and a bunch of branches, but I'm going to go through the process I used to set all this up, and again how I manage my code, and hopefully you'll find this useful. The software I'm going to use for this tutorial include the following. I'm going to need a GitHub account. I'm going to use GitHub Desktop, and I'm also going to use Visual Studio Code. If you don't have GitHub Desktop installed, go ahead and install it. Same with Visual Studio Code. Get both those installed, and then we'll use those two pieces of software to again interface with the repo we're going to create over in GitHub. The first step you're going to do is you're going to need to go ahead and create a GitHub account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Right now I don't have a GitHub account for my channel, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a GitHub for the channel. Type in my email here. And I'm just going to pick the password. Now the password showed on screen. First thing I'm going to do is change that password in a second, so that way nobody has it. And I already have a GitHub account, so I'm just not going to. And so now I'm going to go over to my email and I'll enter in this code. I have verified my account, so now I'm just going to go through these extra steps here. Now it's just me. Hit continue. And I don't need. Well, let's go ahead and I am going to check some of these. Okay, now and then I'm just going to use the free here. So this initializing, and there we go. And so once we have this, then we're ready to start making a couple other changes and get ready to manage Marlin. Once my GitHub profile is all set up, I'm going to, I need to make sure that my other software is installed. So I need to, again, install GitHub Desktop and then Visual Studio Code, and I have both those installed. Next step, we're going to go ahead over and clone a copy of Marlin, or I'm sorry, fork a copy of Marlin. So I'm going to search all of GitHub, and here's the Marlin project right here. I'm going to click on that, and my next step, I'm going to go ahead and create a fork of this code, and this forks so that way I can edit it. Basically, in Git terms, a fork is when you create a copy of a repository that basically sits in your account as opposed to sitting in the parent account, this being the parent account. And what it's going to allow me to do is edit the code without impacting this parent at all. But I will be able to pull changes from the parent, into my copy, so that way as they're making changes to Marlin and updates are happening, I can incorporate those updates along with the changes I've made in Marlin. So to create a fork, I'm just going to click this fork button, And you can see I have created my first fork. So you can see where it's forked from, and then here's my account. And so that's all ready to go. Now my next step is, let me go ahead and open things up in GitHub desktop so we can go ahead and see how things work from there. So I'm going to switch over to GitHub desktop. Now one of the first steps I'm going to need to do in GitHub desktop is I'm going to go in my setup, I'm going to go to preferences, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And so I'm signing in now with my Minimal 3D account. And so I've gone ahead and signed in. Now I have this repository, and I'm going to go ahead and clone it. And I'm going to choose which folder I put this in. I put this in my Minimal 3DP folder. So now it's creating a clone. And this is basically a copy of the code that's on GitHub in my repository, now on my local machine. And this takes a couple minutes. Okay, I just want to say I'm doing this for my own personal purposes, so I continue. And as you can see, this is the repo I have. I now have the repo on my machine. Now I want to make some other quick changes here in preferences. I want to use my external editor. I like using Visual Studio Code. Then in my case, I use iTerm2 as my shell. On Windows machines, I'd leave it as the default. I would change the external editor to Visual Studio Code. I think that's just easier to use. And the way it highlights things, and you'll see in a minute. Let's go ahead and hit save. Now my preferences are set up. Now, when you're working with Marlin, you have a couple choices. You can work out of the main branch, which is version 2.0.x, or you can work out of bug fix. Now, I usually do all my machines are running bug fix 2.0.x. And so for the rest of this tutorial, I'm going to use bug fix 2.0.x as the basis for what I'm going to do. So now you have GitHub desktop all set up and ready to go. I'm on bug fix. And the next thing I want to do is I want to click branch and new branch. And then I want to make sure that branch is being using bug fix 2.0. I'm going to name this, and I name each branch after my printers. So first printer I'm going to do is my Ender 5 Plus, and this one's using a Big Tree Tech SKR board 2. So it's using SKR2, so I'm just going to put SKR2 here. So that way I remember which one this is, which printer, and then which board it's using. I'm just going to hit create branch. And so now moves me over on this branch. I'm going to go ahead and publish this to GitHub. Okay, and now all my changes that are on my machine should be on GitHub. So if we go back over and let's switch to the browser and look at my account here. So I'm still seeing Marlin, that's good. And then I go here, and there's my Ender 5 SKR2 branch. And now this is where I'm going to make all my changes. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and move some files over into here so this matches my setup. So what I can do is, let's go over and we'll open up Visual Studio Code. On VS Code, I can go ahead and hit File, and basically want to hit Add Folder to Workspace. And I'm going to go ahead and navigate over to my minimal 3D folder and add Marlin. And so now I have my copy of Marlin here. And I'm going to go ahead and make some changes. First change I've made is corrected the board here, so I'm using the correct board. And I'm going to make the various changes I need to make for my printer to the config.h and configuration_advanced.h, and I won't go through those. But I've gone ahead and made the changes off camera, just so we can have some changes present. Now if I want to check where I'm at in Visual Studio Code, what I usually do is just leave the terminal open, and I have my terminal set up down here towards the bottom where it always tells me what branch I'm on. Okay, so I have all my changes in Visual Studio Code, and let's go back over to GitHub Desktop. So in GitHub Desktop, you can see it's showing changes, and let's go ahead and commit those changes. So I'm going to, down here in the summary, I'm going to put updated to P. Yep. And then I want to basically go ahead and hit commit. So I've committed those changes, and then I can hit a button, and that pushes it up to the repo. That pushes it up to GitHub. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at that. I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here. And made a change here, so updated GitHub setup. So there we go. And once I have this, so I have this branch now, from now on will be the branch for my Ender 5 Plus. Now I have a habit of, let me switch back over to Visual Studio Code real quick. One of my habits, and I just want to show this. Yeah, I use Auto Marlin build, so I'm going to click on that and open the ABM panel. I'm using the SKR2 F429's one-hit build. Now, I try to make sure that before I commit or before I send things to GitHub, I always try to make sure that I have running code. That way, I know what's ever up on GitHub actually compiles as firmware. So that might be a good habit for you to use as well. Because I really don't like to mess up my firmware and then publish it, and then because in a week or two, if I forget, then I'll have to try to figure out what the heck I changed and roll things back. So we'll let this compile, and I'll just show you that it compiles once it finishes. As you can see down the bottom here, my firmware has successfully compiled. So this right here is my basic setup for how I manage each printer. So let's just go over here so you can see this again. I'm going to go back over to GitHub Desktop, and let me go ahead And I'm going to switch back over to bug fix. And I'm going to create a new branch. And I'm going to call this SWX1. This is for my Sidewinder X1. I'm going to make sure this is on bug fix. And then I'll go ahead and publish the branch. And then I can basically just do the same process I just did. I can go over Visual Studio Code and edit Marlin for my Sidewinder. And if I go up here, you can see now I have two branches I have that I've created. I have Sidewinder X1, and then I have this Ender 5 Plus SKR2. And so basically inside this one repo I'm managing several printers. And this is just the way I like to do it, and for me it keeps everything clean and neat. I'm going to switch accounts now, and I want to just show you how to update the code when there's changes that the Marlin team has made. Periodically, I want to go ahead and pull in all the changes the Marlin team's made into the various copies of firmware I have. So in order to do that, I make sure I'm in my Marlin repository, make sure I'm on bug fix 2.0.x, and then I'm going to go up to the top here and hit branch and merge into current branch. And I'm going to scroll down till I get to upstream / bug fix 2.0.x. And so that's the various changes the Marlin team has made. And then I'm just going to hit create commit merge, and that pulls down all the changes they've made into my copy of bug fix 2.0. So right now I have all the changes from bug fix from the Marlin team into my copy of bug fix. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click down and let me just update. Pick a printer here. I'm going to pick the Sidewinder X1. So I want to update this firmware to include all the changes from Marlin. So once I'm on this branch, I'm going to click branch at the top, merge into current branch, and then I want to select my local copy of bug fix 2.0 and 2.0x. And you'll notice that I have a conflict here, which is okay. So I'm just going to hit create a merge commit. And I have two problems here I need to look at. So I'm going to click open in Visual Studio Code. So right now I have the changes open in Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go ahead and look through those. You'll notice it's real hard to see, but on the right hand side there's little areas sort of in a greenish blue. If I click on those, these are the changes that my changes here. So I have these two options turned on, and incoming these changes are turned off in Marlin. I'm just going to say accept incoming changes, and I'll go ahead and just activate those again. Then I have one other conflict down here. There we go. These have to do with EEPROM settings. And basically it looks like, well, it looks like I think they changed the description. I'm just going to accept incoming changes and then go ahead and just turn this back on again. I'm going to save that file, close it, and I'm going to switch back over. I'm going to close it, and then I'll switch back over to GitHub. You can see there's no conflicts, so I'll continue the merge. And then I'm going to push these changes up. So basically what I've just done is updated this firmware to include all the newest changes from Marlin, from the Marlin team. So this is the way you update. Again, I can repeat this for all of my printers. So I have an Ender 5 Plus that's using an SKR 1.4 Turbo, so let's update that printer. I switch over to that printer, click Branch, merge into current branch, select the local copy of bug fix 2.0. And again, it's going to tell me I need to fix the conflicts. So I'm just going to hit Open in Visual Studio Code. So it opens in Visual Studio Code, and as you can see on the far right hand side, there's a little area in bluish green here. I click on that, and I'm just going to put accept incoming changes, and then I'll just reactivate this option. Save it. Switch back over to GitHub, desktop. No conflicts, continue merge. And so now all my code is in sync with all my changes and in sync with the changes that the Marlin team is making constantly. Hopefully you found this helpful. This can be a little bit confusing, so don't hesitate to shoot me a message or put a question in the comments and I'll try to help you out. But once you set this up, I think this is the way to go, and it's a great way to manage all of your code and firmware for your various machines. This is Mike from Minimal 3DP. I appreciate your time today. If you found this content helpful, please give me a like and feel free to subscribe. Thank you for your time.